Welcome back. I'm Rick Sanchez. Here's what we want to know tonight about the suspected terrorist who almost blew up a plane on Christmas Day, Umar Farouk Abdulmutallab. He is a 23-year-old Nigerian who had a multiple entry visa to the United States. That's important. His father, a successful banker, had warned authorities about his son weeks earlier. So the question now becomes quite obvious. What was or wasn't done with that information that was received from his father? Was he at any point put on a list? I've got some information I want to take you through. A series of lists that they use for terrorists. List 1. This is called the TIDE database. It has about 500,000 people on it. He was on that list. But again, that's the very first list. I want to show you list 2 now, right? This is called a terrorist screening database. This one has about 400,000 names on it. He was not on that list, as we understand it. I want to show you another list now. This is list 3. This is called a selectee list. Only 14,000 people on this list. And what it essentially does is it makes a secondary screening, as you see written on the bottom of that, mandatory. In other words, you show up at the airport and they say, wait a minute, come over here. They take you aside and they do a secondary screening. Now, here's really the most important list of all. This is list 4. This is called the no-fly list. You don't get on an airplane if you're on this list. Not a lot of people on it. As you can see right there, it's only 4,000 people that are on this list. Those are the facts as we've been able to gather them for you. Now, let's try and get an explanation of this. Here now, terrorism expert Paul Cruikshank and CNN national security contributor Fran Townsend, who was President Bush's Homeland Security advisor. Fran, let me start with you and let me cut right to the chase. What is the threshold for this no-fly list? It would seem that's the one we wanted this character on, right?
Absolutely, Rick. And what it turns out is that list is restricted only to those who we believe to be a risk to aviation security. As you can understand, there are different thresholds for each of the different lists that you've gone through. And this one has the fewest number of people on it because unless you really have specific and credible information that an individual is a threat to aviation security.
Well, what could be more of a threat than his own father, who seems to be a real reputable guy? I mean, an honest banker who is a distinguished individual, according to everybody who knows him, who goes to authorities and essentially says, I'm worried about my son. He's been radicalized, and I fear that he might become a suicide bomber. My goodness, what more could we have asked for than that?
You're absolutely right, Rick, and this is clearly a fumble. Actually, I've been interested that we haven't seen more outrage on the part of the administration. This clearly was a mistake. We know from our allies around the world, specifically in Saudi Arabia, that this is the most credible information. You want to encourage families to report the radicalization of the sons in their family.
You know, Paul, I almost think to a certain extent, thank goodness, nobody got hurt in this deal. But I almost think it's like turning the lights on in a room and suddenly you get to see all the cockroaches. The fact that this organization, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, is now coming out today and claiming responsibility, calling it a heroic attack, their direct quote, by the way, seems to tell us that, okay, these are the bad guys. These are the guys that we need to really be focusing on, maybe more than we're focusing on Afghanistan and Iraq.
That's absolutely right, Rick. This group is Al-Qaeda's affiliate in Saudi Arabia and Yemen. There are signs that Al-Qaeda has now a growing presence inside Yemen. It's really becoming a safe haven for Al-Qaeda in recent months. And this claim of responsibility, I think, is a credible claim of responsibility for this attack. In recent months, they've been making statements, threatening statements about targeting American aviation, American airports. Just a few days ago, before Christmas, there was a threat from one of their operatives in a speech he made to tribal elders within Yemen. So this may well be Al-Qaeda launching an attack from Yemen, Rick, against the United States.
But there's a difference between is and may be. And here's what I want to know, and I think this is what Americans want to know. Is there at this point, or are you confident, Paul, as an expert in this field, that there either is or will be a quid pro quo that matches this attempted terrorist who tried to blow up this plane with this group claiming responsibility in parts of Yemen, that they physically either trained him, assigned him to this.
Absolutely.
That does seem to be what we're seeing in this attack, that he was sent from Yemen. He said that he was trained over there. He was given this bomb in Yemen. He said that to the FBI, according to reports. Now, al-Qaeda over there in Yemen recently were responsible for a very similar sort of attack in Saudi Arabia against an official there, a prince over there, where they used this same explosive PETN. So this group does have a track record in using this explosive. They now say they want to attack the United States more and more and target American airliners, Rick, and that's very, very concerning.
It looks like this administration is trying to let the Yemenis be the front guys on whatever operation we're doing out there. Can either of you give us any sense of what we're doing, and maybe further to the point, what we should be doing if we are to confirm this quid pro quo, that these guys in Yemen actually put this guy up to this, he accepted the assignment and tried to kill innocent people?
Rick, I will tell you, going back before 9/11, the bombing of the USS Cole in Aden, Yemen, in 2000, where we tragically lost 17 American sailors. Since then, we've seen 2 attacks against our embassy in Sana'a. The guns used in the attack against our consulate in Jeddah also came out of Yemen. This attack that was just mentioned against Prince Mohammed bin Nayef, the head of the Saudi Internal Security and Counterterrorism Force. This is a continuing problem, and it's time. You know, the time for polite diplomacy is long past. We've poured tens of millions of dollars into Yemen to build counterterrorism capability, and obviously it hasn't had results. And so what really needs to happen, as far as I'm concerned, is Yemen needs to be told quite clearly, either you're going to solve the problem inside your borders that's a threat to the U.S. and its regional allies, or allow the U.S. and international community to come in and do it for you.
Paul and Fran, my thanks to you both. Great insight, great conversation.